just from falling close to the ground. Perish or try to fight it, parachute now. Last chance, the final moment, parachute now. And deliver us to the ground. I wanna pull the string. On and on, I feel the speed. Too far to break from pressure. Too much to bear.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 127 of the Chris Parrish podcast. My name is Chris Parrish, as you see right there. Let's get this music out. I'm sure you don't want to hear that. But welcome to episode 127, titled Backlash. First off, I want to thank everyone who has helped to get this podcast going. That's right. Thank you to our beautiful sponsors in Beercade, YEG, located at 10544 82nd Avenue in Edmonton, Alberta, the home of all WWE PLEs and AEW pay-per-views. Come check it out with a great time, with great food and a great atmosphere. You get to play some amazing arcade games. Beercade YAG should be your place for all sports entertainment. And of course, want to thank Turnbuckle Studios and Turnbuckle Affiliation Program. So go and check out turnbucklestudios.org for everything you need for that. Yes, this episode is called Backlash because we are on the heels of WWE Backlash. So let me know in the comments what you thought of Backlash. Did you watch it and what stood out to you? We got Bubba Duke in the comments saying, whoop, whoop, it's time for the Chris Parrish podcast. And I will say, I enjoyed it. It was a great show following WrestleMania. Now, it's always going to be fun to go on the social medias and check out, and everyone's like, oh my God, it has more in-ring time than WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2. Yeah, that's usually what happens. WWE always gives you a little bit extra backlash. They always give you a little bit of switcheroo from your opinions over at WrestleMania. But also there was 5 matches on the card. Of course we were going to get a little bit more match time. You're not going to be able to squeeze in a million segments in a few hours and expect everything to just be wide open. Silly things to argue about, in my opinion. But nonetheless, we saw 5 matches. We saw Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker in a very quick-paced match, which ultimately was taken by Braun Breaker. I think that one was one that we all kind of thought was going to happen, but at the same time, it's pro wrestling and anything really can go on. Babadook is saying, I watched, it was great, start to end. And the stories were great and can't wait to see where Roman and Jacob Fatu are going. But first, Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu were the main event for the World Heavyweight title, but we did see Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker start. They were the first match that went on ESPN, as they kept letting us know the first hour was on ESPN. So the big question was, where does Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker go from here? Well, obviously they're going to continue doing what they're doing. But how does it escalate? That is always the big question. Yes, we know Braun Breaker got that win. We know now that Seth Rollins knows he needs people to fight with, because Austin Theory and Logan Paul did play a part in helping Braun Breaker get that win. So your big question now sits with Seth Rollins and who he goes to for help. We know that the Street Profits want the tag team titles. We know that they have told Seth Rollins they don't trust him. So it's going to be a very intriguing dynamic moving forward to see where Seth Rollins positions himself to get full revenge on not just Braun Breaker, but the entirety of Paul Heyman and the Vision. All I know is I could say this. What we saw last night, and if that is an indication of where things can go, I really do hope they enhance the aggression and the violent approach to these fights. And I say the word fights because with all this emotion, they should not be regular matches. If I was in a position of Seth Rollins and I put my heart and soul into making giant moves to cater a new era in wrestling only for that new era to turn on me, I'm going to be more than angry. I am going to be livid and I am going to be absolutely PO'd. So the fact that we're seeing super kicks over punches and strikes threw me off a little bit. The fact that we didn't see a disqualification in this match, which I really thought should have been the right call. I would have loved to see Seth Rollins get disqualified for using a steel chair on Braun Breaker. It would have been absolutely poetic to the story. He has used that steel chair on Paul Heyman and Braun Breaker in the past. And right now it seems like a steel chair is Seth Rollins' best ally. But nonetheless, we got that 3-on-1 and Seth Rollins lost. So I want to know, Seth, what do you have in store for the Vision? And then next up, we had our amazing United States Championship match, Trick Williams and Sami Zayn. And we all know that there was a gingerbread man that was a part of the story. And we all watched it with, well, we just watched it. But then they had a funeral, and let's be honest, that funeral was a little bit more comedy-based than what we expected, and the inclusion of the gingerbread man in historic wrestling photos from the past might have just been something that saved the idea. But knowing now that Trick Williams and Sami Zayn have completely flipped in their positioning, in the sense that Trick Williams is now the babyface and Sami Zayn is now the heel, I think we're in line to see more from both. But at the same time, given the fact that we did see Trick Williams pick up the win, and now was it clean? No, because we had little Yachty in the back. He took shots on Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn took shots on him. You could say they evened out, but it still happened. This match almost went down as if Sami Zayn was the baby face and was just finding his inner heel antics. But the big question remains is that with the popularity of Trick Williams, with that current direction of Trick, do we see Sami break even more? Losing at WrestleMania is one thing. Losing that revenge match is another. So I think the big question is for Sami Zayn, what is your breaking point? Because right now, a gingerbread man might be the tipping point, but it doesn't feel like a breaking point. Bubba Duke saying the Trick and Sammy match was good. I think we may get one more match to finish this entirely. And could be right. I still think a big blow off gimmick match might be in order. And whether or not this is Sami Zayn saying, if I don't beat you, I don't challenge for the US title anymore. Could be, if I don't beat you, I will go back to Raw. Who knows what it is? I just think, at the very least, one more finality. Even though Trick is up 2-0 in this series, I still want to see one more just to kind of blow it away. But if by chance last night was the final match and we see something completely different, I'd be very intrigued with what comes next. As CBRS Entertainment coming in and saying, I think Sammy's breaking point could be his failure to capture the US title. If that's the case, then it's not a very heelish way. Now, can it be a breaking point? Absolutely, but we'd have to get more for Sammy to break. At least he has to break on the wrong person. Whether that's a Matt Cardona, a Carmelo Hayes, Ilya Dragunov, who knows? But he needs to snap on the wrong person for me to completely believe that's his breaking point to becoming a full-fledged villain. And then what's next for Trick? Well, obviously somebody different, whether it's Matt Cardona, whether it is Carmelo Hayes, Ilya Dragunov, all are fresh matchups. But if I'm WWE, I'm looking at Ricky Saints. And I think Ricky Saints might just be the hidden gem in the mid-card division. And I'm looking at that US title as being a perfect opportunity for Ricky Saints to really cut his teeth on SmackDown. I do think he is sadly groomed to be a mid-card act and nothing more. And I don't think that's a negative, because he has the mic skills that could elevate him on the roster. We believed his challenge against Cody Rhodes. But there is something about the presentation of in-ring with Ricky Saints that when he's put in the ring with Cody Rhodes, just wait till he's in a ring with a Randy Orton or an Oba Femi, which he was in NXT, and I don't want to get started on that idea again. But some of these bigger men, it's almost watching Rey Mysterio against the Big Show. And I'm not saying Ricky Saints is small in terms of height, but he's very thin, and he's not built in the way that I perceive a heavyweight needs to be built. To me, there's a cap on Ricky Saints, and I'm always going to feel that way unless he proves otherwise. But that, I think, could be a very interesting idea for the US title, because Trick Williams himself is someone I do look as a heavyweight champion in the future. And then we got the fun match of the night. Miz and Kit Wilson go up against Danhausen and a mystery partner. But before we get there, I just want to let everybody know that this show is being brought to you on a plethora of platforms. Basically, everyone on Turnbuckle Studios, along with everyone on mine. Whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, or Kick, you can find the Chris Parrish Podcast. So if you're there, please give a like, a follow, subscription to those channels. Hit those notification bell buttons to alert yourself every time either Chris Parrish podcast or anything Turnbuckle Studios related goes live. So the big question remains, who is Danhausen's partner? All these rumors are out, and they're like, oh, it's going to be Obafemi. I thought it could be CM Punk. But we were all wrong. It was the performer known as El Torito, now known for this one night as Minihausen. With the use of a cloning machine, we got Minihausen. And it was a fun match. We got that slapstick comedy that Danhausen likes to use. And it was something enjoyable. And you know what? It might not be everyone's cup of tea in professional wrestling. But I do think that if you're an entertainment company like WWE and literally almost pro wrestling in general, there should always be room for something like that as long as it's used in the right way. Because if it's anything less or anything more, it, in my eyes, just doesn't work. Borsnet is coming in saying this was a great match. It made the night fun. And it was. We got a lot of our slapstick comedy, whether it's a failure, the use of a fire extinguisher, or even just spots with a little person. We had a lot of fun watching this, and I thought it was really interesting that Danhausen really didn't work the majority of the match. His issue was with the two men, yet he fought the least amount. That was odd. But when it was all said and done, he did get the win. Maybe it was the help of Kit Wilson putting Minihausen back in the cloning machine, and we got more Minihausens to really even the odds. You do the math. But nonetheless, it was comedy, and it was fun, and Danhausen remains undefeated in WWE, whether it's through match or by curse. And that led us to what many believe was the match of the night, and that was Io Sky versus Asuka. And what more can be said about these two women who have just historically been known for putting on countless amazing in-ring performances. There was something special about this match as we went on, and we didn't really know. In fact, we couldn't really put a feeling or a thought on it, but during this match, whether it was all the homages to Kairi Sane, whether it was just the speed, whether it was the strikes, whether it was the non-stop flow of the match, Io Sky was the one who got the 1-2-3 with over the moonsault on Asuka. But the big question here wasn't just how good of a match these two put on. And if you don't believe me, go back and watch it. It wasn't even the fact that the women got over 18 minutes in their match, which usually is a huge thing on social media. But the big question was the emotion that Asuka showed. Now, there's been reports already claiming that she is semi-retired from here on out. But until I flat out hear from Asuka herself about her status and what that meant, all you can do is speculate. And the reason why I want to say it that way is because we were led to believe we were going to get Kairi Sane coming back. We were led to believe that Jelly Roll was going to be Danhausen's partner, and we were led to believe other aspects of WWE. And all of those have been incorrect. And multiple sources have been putting it out that those were going to happen. So the report of Asuka being semi-retired is something that I'll take with a grain of salt, and I won't debunk it, but I'm not going to completely believe it just yet. I will say I'm a big supporter of body language, and the body language showed that this match meant more to Asuka than more people thought. And you don't really see her get emotional and cry after a match the way she did, especially when she aggressively and emotionally hugs someone after this match. She has done it very little in her tenure of WWE, and it does make me think more to this might just be it for Asuka in ring. Do we know anything more? Not right now, we don't. But if by chance that was the final match of Asuka, what a career and what a tenure in WWE. And I can honestly say a lot of what I've seen from Asuka has been in WWE. And it was WWE that allowed me to look into her time in Japan and appreciate Kana. But I do think that we could be talking about Asuka in the Hall of Fame if by chance this is it. I do think we're going to look at the performer possibly, in my eyes, becoming a true pioneer of connecting WWE into markets of Japan that could allow a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam. I know WWE wants to be more active in Japan, and let's face it, when you had Kairi Sane, Asuka, Io Sky, Julia, you have the female talent to do so. And you just happen to have Shinsuke Nakamura under contract. You also have Albert, who performed very well in Japan and is very respected. You also have Finn Balor, who made his mark forming the Bullet Club out in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So there is no shortage of representation in WWE. But if I'm staying on topic, if I'm reading into the body language correctly, I just want to say, Asuka, thank you for everything you have done in WWE and what a career it was. But as the entitled wrestling fan in me, one more match, one more match. And this allows us to go to the main event of the night. Jacob Fatu challenges Roman Reigns for the World Heavyweight Championship. And what can I say? We saw the aggression. We saw the straight towards the tongue and death grip from Jacob Fatu. And we saw a beatdown of Roman Reigns like nobody has done. However, we're talking about Roman Reigns. He just doesn't lie down for anyone. You have to really get him. And despite anybody coming down to the ring, it wasn't interference this time that Roman looked towards. It was desperation. It was desperation and a tongue and death grip to where he had to grab the referee. He had to grab and rip off a turnbuckle pad. And then he had to use the exposed turnbuckle on Jacob Fatu. And even though we might look at that as a little bit anticlimactic, which when was the last time you said that about a Roman Reigns world title main event? Roman Reigns got the 1-2-3 on Jacob Fatu. Now, once again, I would have loved a disqualification here. And the reason, believe, is because what we saw after the match was a very, very aggressive attack on Roman Reigns by Jacob Fatu. And the reason why I would have preferred a DQ here is that now that DQ is what Jacob Fatu can flat out say was total BS. Borgson's coming and saying this is going to turn into a civil war. The family is going to have to pick sides. And that's just where I think the fans are now. Because if you heard the crowd, they were confused. They were confused with the attack. Just like I was. I understand Jacob Fatu wanting to be champion. But why couldn't he gotten a little bit more of just a shaft? Had Roman used that exposed turnbuckle, the referee saw it, he could have DQ'd Roman. Jacob Fatu wins the match. Jacob Fatu gets upset because maybe that exposed buckle doesn't really affect him that much because Samoans in their heads are just a different story. Then he gets mad, boom, attack is made. To me, that would make a lot more sense than Roman using the exposed turnbuckle, hitting a spear, getting a 1-2-3 pin, and then within seconds after, we see Jacob Fatu get mad and attack Roman Reigns. Because that way, Jacob, you lost, man. You got beat. Why are you so mad? That's on you. Whereas, had he been disqualified and Jacob wins the match, Jacob Fatu is now mad over the situation, and he now knows Roman took the easy way out. And then we're still left with, well, who's better? I just thought that would have done a better way of protecting Jacob Fatu here, but also giving everyone the opportunity to get that next chapter in Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu. And then we understand this post-match attack just a little bit more. That is just how I would fix that. Just my opinion, but let me know your opinion. Let me know what your thoughts of WWE Backlash was. And before you do it, let's swing over to turnbucklestudios.org and let's look at the trios of advertisements. That's right. We got a weekly calendar, we got a shop, and we got an ad that says we want you. So please check out all of these. And in the meantime, if you need to take a trip to the urinal lane, or you need to top off a beverage, or whatever the case may be, now is your time. And then we'll get back to what I thought were the important things of pro wrestling this past week.
A Turnbuckle affiliation program is looking for more people. If you have passion level for pro wrestling, sports, videos games, or something else, then Turnbuckle Studios is the place to be. If you have ever wanted to pursue content creation and want to join our team, then we would love to have you. Check out turnbucklestudios.org or contact us by email today, because your future is now, and we want you to tap in.
The Turnbuckle Studios store is open for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the merch and represent the best from the shows you watch on a weekly basis. Multiple styles to choose from with over 10 products available. Don't get left out and pick up all your favorites today. Find us at turnbucklestudios.org.
Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program bring you the week of streams. All times are in Eastern Time. Monday night we are on call as the Raw Patrol is on duty at 8 p.m. Tuesday brings you the flagship show, Turnbuckle Talk, at 8:05 p.m. Wednesday, we play games with the PlayStation Showcase at 8 p.m. Thursdays, we roam the jungle with the Boar's Nest at 9 p.m. Friday, we invite you to come for a ride with the SmackDown security detail at 8 p.m. The weekend brings you Saturday Night Gaming at 8 p.m. On Sunday, be sure to catch the Chris Parrish podcast at 12:15 p.m. And later in the day, the Locker Room presents Wrestling Recap delivers at 7 p.m. Always be aware that weekend shows can vary in times, as the PLE Patrol and other watch party streams are always a must-see. Be part of the shows and join the chat every day, and watch all of the latest episodes on turnbucklestudios.org/shows. And please do not forget to drop a like, follow, and to subscribe to all of our channels, and when the time is right, all you have to do is tap in.
That's right, everybody. Turnbucklestudios.org is the homepage of Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program. You have so much to do there. You can check out all of our latest episodic shows with a click of a button. You can just click on all of our sections when you go and meet the team under the host section, and you can get directed to all of our personal links. You can then also go and check out our shop that have just an amazing amount of product. And you can even go and pick up yourself a good Chris Parrish podcast t-shirt. And if you pick up anything on that show regarding the Chris Parrish podcast, you will get a live shout out on the next episode of the Chris Parrish podcast. We talked about what else could be going on in WWE, because let's face it, all roads led to Backlash, but not every road kind of went through Backlash. In fact, we saw a lot of things happen this past week that made us really get excited. Whether it was Sol Ruka stepping up against Becky Lynch and now getting a fresh Intercontinental Championship matchup, that's out there. We know Gunther and Cody Rhodes is now scheduled to take place under the Clash in Italy banner, and it is going to be for the Undisputed Championship. So the big question is, what stood out to every one of you? I also do want to say that I want to wish and send my condolences to the families of Ted Turner. We sadly found out that he passed away this week, and I just want to say the impact of WCW in the wrestling world will never be forgotten. And for that, Ted Turner, thank you and Godspeed. It was a lot of fun just watching Raw, SmackDown, NXT this week. We saw some names that came up, and now we talked earlier about not believing what you read online, because there is a name, Nox Rygin, that was expected to be for the man they called Evil, but it wasn't meant to be. He does go by a different name, and I believe it's Naraku. That is the name he is now going by in WWE. The man we know on the independent scene as Will Cruz will be going by the name Mason Rook. So the big question remains, how do these men be presented in NXT? And here's something we didn't mention at Backlash. John Cena. John Cena comes out and lets everyone know just how awesome he thought his last night in WWE was, despite the insane response about him tapping out to Gunther. What we saw was the inclusion of NXT versus Raw and SmackDown, and he wants to see that again, and we will see that again with the John Cena Classic. Now, this match will feature the stars of today going up against the stars of tomorrow. And ultimately, the fans are going to select the first ever John Cena Classic champion. Now, the big question is, what does this championship mean? Yes, I know John Cena's name's on it, but I'm sorry, Mr. Cena. But what is the meaning of the title? What does this title represent? What does this title allow people to do? Is it going to be a token of moving someone from an NXT to a main roster? Does it give this person a championship opportunity at a world title? I think there's a lot more that needs to be done, or at least said. And then obviously, what does this title look like? That's going to be the big question. But let's stay on this idea, because we talked about Mason Rook, Nox Rajin. What about the Miles Bourne? What about the Kendall Grays? What about Zarias? All these people work in NXT and are now the new faces of that brand, among others. But what could we see in this John Cena Classic? What kind of matchups could we see? Could we see Rhea Ripley versus Zarya? Could we see Miles Bourne versus Randy Orton, as that is the biggest comparable for Miles Bourne? But could we have some fun and see maybe Bronson Reed versus Mason Rook? Could we see somebody like Finn Balor or Shinsuke Nakamura go up against the man we now call Naraku? Could we see Tony D'Angelo mix it up with a Seth Rollins or a Roman Reigns? I think there is going to be a lot to look into with this, and I'm going to be excited for what could be, but I'm very skeptical as well, because I'm not exactly in the want of a new championship in WWE when I am looking specifically at the tag titles, but sometimes the mid-card championships, as you don't really do a lot for these right now as it is. So I think, and let me know what you think, I think John Cena Classic could be a lot of fun. But to me, it's all going to depend on how it's presented and what it means for that winner going forward. I'm not too convinced yet, but I'm open-minded. Let me know your thoughts on the John Cena Classic. I'm very intrigued with the state of WWE right now. It almost feels like we are moving in that new era. Whether or not you look at the resurgence of the new talent, like Trick Williams, like Fatal Influence, like Oba Femi. And then you see just the explosion of somebody like Penta over on Raw, and how this year so far he has made it more about him than he has in other years. We're seeing that transition into a different time. We are seeing so many talent hang it up. I mean, just 6 months ago, John Cena wrestled his final match. AJ Styles had his final match at the Royal Rumble. Brock Lesnar appeared to have his final match at WrestleMania. Asuka appeared to have her final match last night. It's going to be one of those scenarios where as sad as it is to see these talents go, somebody else has to step up and come up. So the big question is, with Asuka leaving, that represents an opportunity. Brock Lesnar leaving represents an opportunity. AJ Styles, John Cena. So I think it's safe to say Obafemi is going to be that next Lesnar-esque talent. Is Trick taking over the spot of an AJ Styles? Is Fatal Influence as a collective taking over the whole that Asuka will leave? I think that is the big question right now, because as much as we want to say who's going to be that next rising star, I'm also going to ask, are we done with people hanging it up? It almost sounds like we are embarking on a year that is going to be completely intertwined with retirement and with new beginnings. I mean, I know it was said in the chat that there was going to be a civil war within the Samoan family, but not knowing what side you're going to pick there is going to be very intriguing to what side you're going to pick now, in the sense of new talent coming in. I mean, we can look at our champions and say, okay, Trick Williams is the United States Championship. That's refreshing. Penta's your Intercontinental Champion. That's refreshing. Fatal Influence could be going after the tag titles and the Women's Championship on SmackDown. That's refreshing. Sol Ruka could be your next Women's Intercontinental Championship, and that's refreshing. So, with the knowledge of knowing we need that good mix between new and established, I'm going to ask, who is the next big draw out of the new group of talent? And sometimes we could say very easily it's one person. However, when John Cena was battle rapping, we all thought Randy Orton was that guy. And then it just turns out it was John Cena. And I don't think a lot of people thought John Cena was going to be that guy when he was with Bull Buchanan. All I'm saying is the answer could very well be obvious, but we also do not know. And that is the best part of watching every week, because we just never know. And who's to say Dominic Mysterio could be that guy? Right? Javon Evans could be that guy. There is no shortage of fresh when it comes to current roster right now. And I know WWE is in a lot of flux in the released guys, people retired kind of a thing, but the opportunities given to these new talents, whether it is the ones coming up from NXT or even the ones that are coming over from an AEW or other companies, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And we're going to get just kind of that new wave that makes the product itself more interesting. I do want to let everybody know that I'm aware today is Mother's Day. So if you're a mother and you're watching, thank you and happy Mother's Day. I want to take this time to wish not only my wife, but also my mother a happy Mother's Day. And on that day, we embark on an opportunity that is change. Why? because we now have just finished Backlash. Backlash is usually the lingering effects of WrestleMania before we start really enjoying the next year in pro wrestling. And that, to me, is always exciting. So now that Backlash is in the back, we look forward, whether that's Saturday night's main event or even at the end of the month in Clash in Italy. We're now all sights towards SummerSlam. Yeah, that's just it. That's just how the year goes. We go from SummerSlam to WrestleMania and then WrestleMania to SummerSlam. So the big question is, who are going to be your king and queen of the rings? Who's going to win Money in the Bank? What's going to happen? Who's going to be the rising breakout star? Is somebody going to get absolutely just forgotten about? All these things happen. And that's why I can't wait for next week and episode 128 of the Chris Parrish podcast, because we're going to talk about that. Because we're talking change, we're talking new ways, we're talking about just being different. So episode 128, time to shake it up. And where I'm going to go with is I'm going to go with an amazing, fun episode next week where I, in the mid-year, evaluate not only the direction, but I'm also going to re-select winners. I'm going to re-select moves that I would make. And I'm going to have a fun show where I give my thoughts on what WWE could do to be even better moving forward in 2026. So if you have any ideas, let me know. You can always email me at parachute, PERISHUTE@gmail.com. You can find all that stuff down below on that link tree. And it will be absolute fun. But until then, I am going to cut this episode just a little short so I can spend time with my mother. So until then, this has been episode 127 of the Chris Parrish podcast, entitled Backlash. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. And until then, be happy and be safe. And remember to be yourself, because at the end of the day, you matter. I'll see you next week.
Rip through the clouds, faster, catch us from falling close to the ground. Perish or try to fight it, parachute now. Last chance, the